back, everybody. Thanks for sticking around for the first few segments. They were talking European politics, talking about the UK elections that just got done. David Cameron and his Conservatives winning a majority of seats for the first time since David Cameron's been Prime Minister. Well, since he's been the leader of the Conservative Party, and how weird that is given how liberal Europe still is, but also just how kind of unpopular austerity has been. And I wonder if it's because, to kind of put a button on my last point, I wonder if it's because even though like Europe is famous for its generous social programs and high taxes and all the rest of it, people aren't too bothered by that, or don't seem to be too bothered by that necessarily in opinion polling. If there's been this financial crisis, and especially in the United Kingdom, if the prescription is hard medicine, they're willing to take it and not complain about it as much as. Can you imagine if real austerity were employed in the United States? We would see. I mean, we saw rioting in Greece for sure, but we would see just crazy protests all over the country all the time.
Well, yeah, for those that depend on it,
and we don't have it. That's the thing. We don't have the kind of safety net that the UK does, that France does, that Norway, Sweden, Finland do. We don't have as extensive a welfare program. And yet I think that we would protest more.
Well, and that may be true. One of the things is the Liberal Democrats and Labor Party had kind of ganged up and said, well, we're going to issue what I would view as a punishing tax rate for the wealthy. We're going to be more anti-business. We're going to start taxing small businesses, large businesses. We're going to just tax so that we can spend. That was basically their approach. And David Cameron's approach, and I think we both can agree, is, hold on, our economy is doing well. We're recovering. We're still able to afford our social programs. I'm going to focus on this and keep it growing. I think the other thing is, and this is an interesting piece of information I didn't know. Mm-hmm. His campaign advisor was Barack Obama's campaign advisor.
One of them. And right. Because David Axelrod was advising Ed Miliband.
Yes. And so, you look at, wow, here are our politicians, our political advisors going over there. And you're looking at, how are they going to rebrand themselves? Because it was an obvious rejection, at least in Britain itself, of the vast tax and spend liberal ideologies. And that's how I look at it. These people, Cameron was smart. He targeted vulnerable people. Mm-hmm. But there is no way you can go out and gut 3 of the 4 major oppositional parties. I mean by gut, just out, without at least having people behind you that believe in what you believe. And now I'm going to contrast that with Scotland. Mm-hmm. Now, everything that I've read says they're all on the attack about, independence for Scotland.
Right.
If you go to their website, that's one of their platforms, but the rest of it is just like the Syriza party is. I hope I pronounced that right, in Greece. Mm-hmm. That said, hold on. We're not going to get rid of austerity. We're going to keep with our social programs, and we're going to build the utopian liberal socialist society. I mean, if you read what they believe in, that's what it is. So you have to stop and think, I wonder, and I don't know. I don't live there. I just, mm-hmm. It's on BBC and The Guardian and whatever else you can find over there to read. But I think, at least in part, a lot of the labor's losses weren't because they were far left enough. What do you think about that?
That, you hear a lot of complaining about that, and you've heard a lot of complaints about that in the UK. You hear a lot of complaints about that here in the States. You hear certainly in Greece, where the folks have been so dissatisfied with how the government's been operating, especially at the behest of the government in Germany, that you're seeing anti-Nazi protests in Greece, and you have been for a while. And so I think that it's fair to say that there's certainly a populist bitterness towards austerity that runs really deep. But as we've seen with a lot of populist kinds of movements, they except I suppose the Tea Party, they're a flash in the pan, and even the Tea Party's on the decline now, but they're a flash in the pan, and they don't ever gain real political momentum unless there is a broader, sort of more moderate coalition behind it.
Yeah. Now that's the thing about the SNP. They took, I think there was 48, no, 58 seats, something like that. They took 56. And they have a girl over there that won. Her name's Mary Black.
Yeah, yeah.
And she's 20 years old and the youngest parliamentarian since, what was it, 1700, something like that. So, and this gal gets right up there and says, listen, I'm all for Scottish independence, but really what she's campaigning on is reversal of austerity. And she's saying, well, hold on, they have ruled us enough. We should be able to lead our own lives. We should be able to lead our own country. And the problem for David Cameron with that is, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, Scott, you saw it last year. I think that David Cameron and I think the folks in Great Britain, like Wales and England, are terrified of Scotland splitting off. I mean,
I would agree.
The Welsh National Party didn't do as well as people thought, and their platform is not necessarily split off from England, but it's hey, put us on parity with Scotland. You know, you give them a lot of money.
Yeah.
How about you send some of that our way? We're really hurting. And I think that if Wales, given the mood over there, I think if Wales had the kind of economy that Scotland does, there'd be a little bit more noise about splitting off too.
Yeah.
How do you keep the island together?
Yeah, and that's
a lot of factions, man.
And there is a lot of factions. Now, Wales and Cornwall are not going to be that big of a deal. And here's the reason why. We have a Prince of Wales for a reason. All right. So that's his money and his economy there. So that's not going to be at risk. But what is going to be at risk is Scotland. They really do want to be independent. And
they've got oil too.
And they do have oil. And the thing is they do not want this austerity. They have been angry about it ever since it was introduced. Right. And, you know, and I think that's what's happening everywhere else. The center left people that are trying to govern the way they try to get their economy going again have just been smashed by, you know, the extreme left. Now in Britain, UKIP, which is really kind of extreme right, they want to do away with all immigration, and it's a big deal there. They've had up to a 50% increase in some of their cities on populations from Poland, and so they call it. I think they call it healthcare tourism, where these people come and they deliver their babies, get all their healthcare, and then they suck it all up and go back. Because, you know, that's part of the problem with the EU is there's really not any borders, not a way to stop these people from doing that. And so, you know, that's a giant issue for them. But UKIP got gutted. I mean, I don't even think they exist as a party anymore. Their party chairman stepped down. Now, just to let you know how bad this was, I'm going to hold up a picture. Mad, come on in close. About the three people that lost. Now, I don't have my glasses, unfortunately. Maybe I should have you hold it up.
Maybe. Hey, yeah, we can do that.
Let me hear. Okay, on this guy, right there, and this guy. Well, oh, what happened? Oh, there you go. And look at the faces on there. Honest to goodness, you sit there and you think, God, they picked the worst pictures ever. So I was doing a Google search saying, oh, I wonder how bad the pictures can get. Google David Cameron or labor losses, and you will see all kinds of funny pictures. The UK Independence Party chief, Nigel Farage, Labour chief, he was a Labour leader, Ed Miliband, he's in the middle, and Nick Clegg, head of the Liberal Democrats.
Yep.
So there's Nick Clegg, and there's Miliband in the middle, and Farage. These are the guys that lost, and look at their faces. Now, what we're going to talk about next is how could the polling be so wrong?
Yeah, it was neck and neck.
It was worse than some of the stuff that they've done over here. Anyway, we'll be back right after this break. We're going to talk about the UK and their awful polling.